What is going on, everyone? My name is Kevin and I am bringing you yet again another 1 month later review of a Samsung Galaxy A series device. The A21s stands out to me in particular as one of the best options in terms of value in the series. Despite its budget price, Samsung has packed in a quad lens rear camera setup, a hole punch Infinity O display, a huge 5000 mAh battery, and of course, a new octa-core processor. On top of all of this, we've got a rear placed fingerprint scanner, face recognition unlock, a micro SD card slot, and even a headphone jack. If the Galaxy A11 we previously checked out wasn't enough for you, there is a very good chance that this higher tier counterpart will catch your eye, and thankfully it's quite affordable too. There aren't a lot of review videos on the phone, so if you appreciate this one, by the end of the video, drop a like or let me know. Before I get into all the features and give you my critiques, I want to show you what comes in the box. We get the Samsung Adaptive Fast Charger, USB-C to standard USB cable, and the stock Samsung earbuds. Packaging does vary depending on your region. I know some stores won't even be carrying the phone with the earbuds, but honestly, if yours doesn't come with one, you're not missing out on a whole lot. The process for setting up the phone was simple. I opted to register my fingerprints and face biometric. To make the most of the display size, I enabled full screen gestures and made the home screen grid to a row of 5 by 5. Once unlocked, you are greeted by the beautiful 6.5-inch display. This is an Infinity O panel because of that hole punch, and it has a pixel density of 270 pixels per inch. Now for watching videos and movies, this was more than adequate in terms of the sharpness, and the color saturation was also very good. The viewing angles did suffer quite a bit as compared to the A51 and A71. That's because this is a TFT panel, not AMOLED. And this is the biggest category in which the TFT displays have suffered in my experience. Now, this being said, this TFT panel still is a solid step up from the lower tier A series phones. This phone has a very familiar look to me. It's like a cross between the A70, A11, and its predecessor, the A20s. Certainly, this design will stay fresh and relevant for the remainder of this year, and as for its design relative to the price range, it's going to be tough to beat. I am happy to report that this phone is being adopted internationally by retailers, and it has broad carrier compatibility. This and the fact that it's dual SIM will make it great for international travelers. In terms of pricing and availability, expect around $200 US, 18,500 rupees, 84,000 naira, or 150 quid. Now, that's just current pricing. These A-series phones go on sale not too long after their release, and in a few months, I'm expecting to see this phone with free accessory inclusions, like maybe a free micro SD card, or who even knows. Besides North America, the UK, Nigeria, and India, I'll list all the links I find for other countries down below. Here in Toronto, Canada, I had no issues with cellular connectivity, data and calling services were good, and I should add that if you so choose to actually take use of the dual SIM capability, it's quite straightforward, and thanks to Samsung's One UI, you won't run into any issues. Speaking of One UI and the software, it's running Android 10 and One UI version 2.1. Since the phone came out not too long ago, I fully expect this phone to get Android 11 update in time. As it is though, I'm very happy with the current software. It's not packed with bloatware, and the few apps that do come pre-installed on it can actually be useful. Before we talk about the daily performance, the cameras, the battery life, and everything else there is to talk about this phone, I gotta mention the build quality. The curved plastic back is actually really nice to hold in the hand, and contrary to what I'm reading online from some A21s owners, on my unit, personally, I have not experienced any creaking of the device. There's no bending, no creaking, it feels solid in the hand, as solid as plastic can get. Since the back and the sides are entirely made of plastic, it will tear apart on impact with the ground. Just check out this battle scar I got from a tiny half-a-foot drop on concrete. By the way, the A21s comes in a few different colors. Right now it's black, white, or blue, and if you want to know my recommendation, I'd go with the black color again, even if I had to pick a second unit, and that's because on this color, the plastic finish around the corners just looks not as noticeable. It doesn't stand out as much on the black unit as compared to white or blue. The volume and power keys are both found on the right side, and they're audibly tactile and give a satisfying feel. but it would be even better if the volume up and down keys were separate buttons. Now it's time to talk about battery life on the A21s. With my phone use, I can easily end off the day with 25% battery remaining, and this isn't light phone use. I'm checking Twitter, I'm checking Instagram, watching YouTube videos. This is with the brightness turned up all the way, cellular data and Wi-Fi turned on. The 5000 mAh battery isn't the fastest to charge up. After all, this included adapter is not Samsung's super fast charger that ships with the A71 and more expensive devices, but this is expected for a phone of this price. With the A21s, Samsung has used the Exynos 850 chip. This is the 8nm ARM Cortex A55 octa-core processor paired with the Mali G52 graphics. Now, I'll give you the breakdown of the pros and cons of this processor. Firstly, overheating was not an issue with the phone at all, even when I was initializing the device and installing a ton of apps on it all at once while gaming. In my favorite mobile game, Call of Duty Mobile, the performance was, let's say, adequate. I'm not impressed, but not complaining either. Low graphics setting is the only option, but it runs well. You can still get competitive and have fun with gaming on here. That is, unless you're a Fortnite player, because this phone had exceptionally bad performance in Fortnite, leading me to the point where I just think that the Exynos chip isn't optimized at all for that specific game, Fortnite. Listen, I'm not expecting Fortnite to be a deal breaker for anyone, but again, it's better to mention these things than not. Every other game title I threw at the phone, like PUBG, Asphalt, and even the arcade games, performed similarly to Call of Duty Mobile, which is to say, good enough for me. This phone's predecessor, the A20s, was no slouch. The switch from that phone's Snapdragon chip to Exynos here is gonna mean one thing is certain. This phone is gonna slow down over the course of a few months. I've already kind of seen that start to happen, and the way to mitigate this is you can go into the developer options and scale down animations. This way you are far less likely to run into frame drops in everyday use. The model I have is the 4GB of RAM unit. Now, personally, I never had any issues with multitasking. I didn't find the need for more RAM on this phone, but there is an option for 6GB, and if in your region the price difference between 4 and 6GB isn't a lot, I would recommend going for the 6GB to just further future-proof your purchase. This specific model has 64GB of internal storage, expandable of course, through that micro SD card slot. Now is a good time to mention that the face recognition unlock and the rear fingerprint scanner are both very good. Okay, so now we are onto the cameras. There are 4 lenses, so I will introduce you to each one and what they do. The middle lens here is the main 48 megapixel camera with an aperture of f2. Its focal length is quite wide, 26 millimeters, which even on a small sensor like this produces wide shots. Luckily, there's no issues with the minimum focusing distance, so in this case, wide shots are good. The image processing for regular shots is not bad. Colors became saturated, but not distorted. The shallow depth of field is refreshing to see on a phone of this price, and the only weakness is sharpness and low light shots. Displaying photos on the screen itself is not the problem. It's when you import the shots onto a large display, that's when you notice the difference between this and the higher tier Galaxy A51. Low light is, like I said, best to be avoided, but the circumstance does come up and it still is usable. For even wider shots, we have the lens just below the middle one. This is the ultra-wide lens, and it's capable of taking 8 megapixel stills that you can use to record video too. It should be noted that the photo quality of the main lens is far superior to what you get with the ultra-wide. The other 2 lenses are for macro photography, albeit kind of trashy macro shots, and the 4th, more practical and final lens is for portrait blur. Samsung calls this mode live focus. You can actually see how much blur you can add into the photo before you take the shot, though this is not the best implementation of software background blur to create depth in photography. It's been done much better by Google and Apple. The front selfie camera is a 13 megapixel lens with an aperture of f2.2, and the software processing for selfies gets the pass. 1080p is unfortunately the max resolution for video recording on the main lens. I think it's ridiculous that we don't have the option for 4K or video stabilization. If you want to buy this phone, take that into consideration. Your videos taken on the phone will be good enough for social media, but the full quality file still won't be enough to flaunt on a TV or monitor. There's other factors to consider as well. Samsung has not given the phone an IP rating for dust or water resistance, meaning I wouldn't risk getting it wet. That is, unless we're talking about a light amount of rain. more important than that, the loudspeakers are just not very good. I know I really just piled on a ton of cons at the end here, but if you can get over all of these negative factors and they don't deter you from buying the phone, what you've got here is a very good in-between of a budget phone and a mid-range phone, and it's going to be a good sweet spot for a lot of people out there. An option that doesn't sacrifice on the design, packs a mighty battery life, adequate performance, and some of the features that you wouldn't even expect for the budget. For me, it's a no-brainer to keep this phone as a backup or a secondary phone because it handles all the tasks I throw at it and it looks good too. Now, due to the lack of coverage on this phone in particular, there's going to be a lot of unanswered questions, and if there's something that I can help you out with, just drop a comment down below. I will hit you with a reply, or if you just want my opinion on the phone or how it stacks up against another phone, drop that in the comments, and as always, I will hit you with a reply. The Galaxy A series phone reviews have been very popular on my channel, and I'm going to continue doing them, but I want to do comparisons of these phones to other phones, kind of like what I did with the iPhone SE and the A51. Actually, speaking of the A51, I want to do an updated video on that soon. So if you want to see more budget phone videos, kind of low end to budget range, stuff that you can actually afford, make sure you're subscribed to my channel with the notification bell turned on, and I will see you guys in the next video.